Many psychics throughout history have been known to predict the end of the world, so let's hear what these prophets have to say. Coming in at number 5, we have the Mayans 2012. One of the most well-known situations of the world is going to end was brought to us by the Mayans. The Mayans were known for their advanced calendar system that originated as far back as the 5th century BCE. The last calendar day was on December 21st, 2012 and began the worldwide doomsday craze. Many believe the date suggested the world would end on that day in some sort of catastrophe, and others believed it would mark the beginning of a new era on Earth where Earth would undergo a positive physical or spiritual transformation. The idea that the world is going to end was a media craze, and almost everyone heard about the conspiracy that in 2012 the world would just end completely. Even became a box office hit, ironically named 2012. As we all know, the world in fact didn't end on that day 9 years ago, but many speculate that in fact the world did end. The theory is that the Earth was swallowed by a black hole and scientists placed us all in a simulation, and us being in that simulation initiated the popular Mandela effect, and also questioned the likelihood of time travelers. The Mayans never said the world would end on that day, but with the calendar ending on that day, everyone figured that would be our fate. Even though the year 2012 came and went, there are still so many people who believe that the world will end sometime soon. Whether it be contributed to an apocalypse, a natural disaster, a war, climate change, or global warming, we don't really know, but it doesn't stop people from getting prepared for the end of days. Coming in at number 4 is David Koresh and the Branch Davidians. Among actual prophets, there are so many self-proclaimed prophets, and one in particular is David Koresh. Born Vernon Howell but later changing his name, growing up was hard for Koresh. He was born to a single mother who gave birth to him at only 15 years old and was a troubled child, but the church had been a part of his life since a young age. He attended the Seventh-day Adventist Church. In the 1980s, Koresh had moved to Waco, Texas, where he became a born-again Christian and joined the Branch Davidians, which was an offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventists, a Christian religious movement that flourished in the late 19th century in America, and today about 19 million people are members. Many say that Koresh corrupted many people and turned their faith and beliefs into a cult. Koresh played guitar and sang in church services. In 1983, he began claiming the gift of prophecy and gained increasing power within the Branch Davidian community, and had quickly begun to gain a following. The Waco Branch Davidians, thanks to David, based their faith on apocalypticism and the notion that they lived in the final times according to the Book of Revelation in the Christian Bible. Koresh claimed himself their final prophet. 90 miles from Waco in Palestine, Koresh set up camp for himself and his followers to live until the apocalypse happened. Koresh had brainwashed his followers, making them believe he was the Son of God, the Lamb, and would open the 7 seals. Also, Koresh was an advocate for polygamy, and eventually fathering over a dozen children in the compound. There have also been many accusations of negative misconduct at the hands of David Koresh. Everything David had worked for came to an end on February 28, 1993, known today by many as the Waco Siege. This standoff with the FBI and the Branch Davidians lasted a total of 51 days, with constant communication with various FBI negotiators and David Koresh. By the end of the 51 days, people had had enough, and the FBI was instructed to take down the church by force. Using firearms and other resources, the church ended up catching fire, and David Koresh, along with 76 of his followers and 4 FBI agents, had died by the end of the 51-day siege. Coming in at number 3, we have James Rawls and the Survivalists. Not only were there prophets and cults that believed in the ending of the world, there were also those who call themselves survivalists or doomsday preppers that believe there will be an ending to the world or an apocalypse. Many believe in different ways this will happen and when, but they are prepared for whatever comes their way. These so-called survivalists know that doom is certain, imminent, and they must be prepared. A man who is dominating this survivalist culture is James Rawls. Formerly a US Army captain, he is known these days as founder and senior editor of survivalblog.com. He wrote a book, How to Survive the End of the World as We Know It, and also works as a survival retreat consultant. Rawls believes an economic collapse caused by a power grid failure will be our doom. He has said the power grid is the real linchpin of society. It fuels our economy and controls all automatic ordering systems. Without it, our economy would just shut down. In winter, you'd see a mass out migration from cities as refugees flood the countryside. Rawls resides on a remote ranch at an undisclosed location with his wife and children, living being completely self-sufficient. They keep livestock, hunt elk, have a 3-year supply of food, and live near a river, so there is an endless supply of water. Due to his lifestyle and his preparations, he isn't worried about when the world will collapse because he is ready and prepared. He has even stated that he is so remote that if the Western civilization were to collapse tomorrow, he wouldn't even notice. For Rawls and his family, it's not about if the world will end, it's about when, and when it does, they are ready for anything. Rawls states to any follower or future follower of this survivalist lifestyle, they must have stored firewood or coal, massive amounts of food storage, possibly even their own gardens and livestock, as well as firearms and medical training. Coming in at number 2, we have Jim Jones and the People's Temple. One of the most popular self-proclaimed prophets and cults of all time is Jim Jones and the People's Temple. As a child, Jones was an avid churchgoer, and after graduating university, he decided to join the ministry in the 1950s in Indianapolis. He was a charismatic man who claimed to have the ability to see the future and heal those who are sick. Because of this, he gained a following, and in 1955 he established the Wings of Deliverance, a Pentecostal church that eventually became known as the People's Temple. Fearing a nuclear war, Jones relocated his church to Northern California in 1965 after coming across an article in the Esquire that listed 9 safe places to live in case of a nuclear catastrophe. And that is why he chose California, because he was often paranoid of a nuclear war happening. Jones, who adopted the name The Prophet, became obsessed with the power of being the leader and having others listening to his every word, and he also wanted his followers to adopt his apocalyptic vision. After spending some time in California, rumors started swirling of Jones and his followers, and the probability of the group being a cult, and Jones taking advantage of his followers and stealing their income for his own use. Because of these accusations, Jones and hundreds of his followers moved to Guyana to build and live in a commune together called Jonestown in 1977. The next year, Leo Ryan, US Representative of California, arrived in Guyana with a group of reporters to investigate Jones and the alleged abuse of members, and also bring home some of his followers who wanted to escape. But before their exit, Jones had ordered their assassination, and Ryan and 4 reporters were killed by Jones's people. Jones knew some of the people did escape, so he initiated a mass extinction plan. On November 18th of 1978, Jim Jones demanded his people to drink cyanide-laced punch, which many followers passively obeyed, and Jones himself passed away that day with a self-inflicted shot wound to the head. A total of 918 people died that day, and it is the largest number of American civilian casualties in a single event to date. And finally, in at number 1, we have Heaven's Gate. To put it lightly, the Heaven's Gate followers believed in UFOs and impending doom. The leaders of this cult were Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles, and founded this new religious movement, or more popularly characterized as a UFO religion, in 1974. Applewhite and Nettles met in 1972, and they believed they had been chosen to fulfill biblical prophecies, and that they had higher level minds than other people. 2 years after the couple met, they had decided to take their views to others and started attending churches and other spiritual groups to speak of their views to others, and eventually they would get many followers to believe in their bizarre ideologies. They would also tour around the United States proclaiming the gospel of higher level metamorphosis, the deceit of humans by false god spirits, envelopment with sunlight for meditative healing, and the divinity of the UFO 2. The two believed that their impending doom was coming, and the only way to escape was to voluntarily turn against the next level by taking your own life. And the members were convinced by their leaders Applewhite and Nettles that there would be a fast approaching UFO which would act as their mode of transportation to the beyond. Applewhite would say to his followers that the mass extinction is the only way to evacuate the Earth. In 1996, the group began renting a large home that they called the Monastery in Rancho Santa Fe, California. That same year, the group purchased alien abduction insurance, and yes, apparently that is a real thing. The policy covered abduction, impregnation, or death by aliens. Applewhite persuaded 38 followers to prepare to take their own lives so that their souls would board the supposed alien aircraft and their souls would go to another level of existence above humans. On March of 1997, the members began by mixing applesauce or pudding with phenobarbital and washing it down with vodka. They had also put plastic bags around their heads after ingesting the toxic mix to induce asphyxiation. All members participating were dressed in identical black shirts and sweatpants with brand new black and white Nike shoes, and also had an armband patch reading Heaven's Gate Away Team. The group had said the matching uniform symbolized unity. Once each member had passed, a living member would proceed to remove the plastic bag from their heads, posing the body in its own bed and covering their face and torso with a purple cloth for privacy. Among the 39 dead were 21 women and 18 men between the ages of 26 and 72. Well, there we have it. I will see you in the next video.
We are looking at how to pronounce the name of this English-speaking country on South America's North Atlantic coast. It is defined by its dense rainforest. How do you go about pronouncing it? It may look like it should be Guyana or Guyana, but no, it is to be said as Guyana.
Guyana? Guyana. Okay, you heard it here first, it's Guyana.